Hello dear viewer, I'm leesusss and welcome back to Flame in the Flood. I felt a bit bad about last time because I was stumbling around on two broken legs and was lacking the flints with which to make a stone knife, with which to make splints, with which to fix my aforementioned broken legs. I was a little bit annoyed because I couldn't use a steel knife to stand in for that instead, and I kind of thought that the game had ended, and so I stopped recording and moved on to something else. And I was actually thinking about not playing the game again, but in the end, off camera, I did continue playing, and strangely, broken legs get better. Now, obviously, in the real world, yes, they do get better, but usually with treatment. You think that would be the best way to do things. But in fact, in the game, they also get better, just over time, which is a bit of a surprise. Everything else, and the reason that was a surprise, because everything else in the game gets successively worse. So if you get a small cut, then that will turn into a staph infection if you don't bandage it. And if you don't treat the staph infection with penicillin, then it becomes sepsis, and then that kills you, because that's what sepsis does. That's what blood poisoning does. In the real world, it's no joke. But with broken legs, apparently not in this game. So in fact, I stumbled around for a while, getting much hungrier and much more tired, and everything else, all my bars going down more quickly because I had busted legs. But eventually they just suddenly got better, and I was fine again. And I found some more flints, and I made me a knife, and I finished the game. What I didn't do was record it, because I didn't think anything else was going to happen. I thought I was just stumbling through the last stages of the game. So, as I say, I felt bad, and I thought, well, why don't I give you the ending of the game as you want to see it, the next stages of the game, and then you can be satisfied as well that we've done the game properly. Okay, so this is a replay with me doing a voiceover of me playing the game again. I'm on expert mode because that's how good I am now. I played the expert mode, which means you get less materials, you get hungry and tired more quickly, etc. And if you die, there's no continues. Okay, that's what the expert mode means. So that's what I'm doing again, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a few key events that happen, including key breakpoints in the game, and then we can watch the ending together. Wouldn't that be nice? Okay, so on with the video. So at this point here, I've basically caught up to roughly where we were before. I've gotten the radio signal activated, and then I have got onto the next zone from there. So the time and distance is about the same as when we left it with my busted legs. At this point here, I'm also a bit more efficient in what I do. I'm more efficient with the raft, a bit about that later, what updates I've got on the raft, and also on not on collecting. I just still collect everything inside because I can't help it. It's a compulsion. But I'm much better at using resources. So, for example, I do not make any basic insulated clothing. I barely even make boar clothing, which is the next level up, which only requires stitching kits. It partly depends on how the game's treating you, because sometimes the game will give you a lot of one thing but not the other. So a classic in this case, well, previously it was flints. We didn't see any flints for ages, did we? In this one, the game is very keen on giving us thread, but not hooks, with which to make stitching kits, and with which to stitch yourself up, or more importantly, to stitch clothing. So that also plays into it as well. If I'd got a lot of stitching kits, I guess I might have made some more pig-based clothing. But I've not even made any wolf-based clothing at all either, because the temperature has an effect. It makes you, as is being wet, that makes it worse, but it makes you hungry and tired more quickly. It depletes everything a lot more, and potentially if it gets really cold, it's very dangerous. It will eventually kill you. However, I know how much I can push it, I think, now with the game. So I'm waiting. I'm building up leather kits, which are needed for the toughest materials, wolf and bear skin, and I'm basically angling towards those because I know what I can get later in the game, having played it, and that's what I'm aiming for. I'm just going to go for late game success by delaying my progress early on. As for the raft, at this stage I've got limited upgrades. I've not found many bolts, I think is the limitation here probably, which is nuts and bolts we're using them for other things. At this stage here I have the most important upgrades as far as I can see one, raft storage, because I've a lot of stuff to carry. Number two is not what I expected, but is in fact the stove, because the stove is super critical. It dries you off if you're wet, it keeps you warm if you are cold, and it enables you to craft almost anything in the game, apart from a couple of items that require hardware benches, and that's the only way you can do it, just with a hardware bench. Plus, there's also a glitch in this version of the game for some reason. When I played the game this time, usually you have to make some tinder, which is very cheap to do, to power your stove. For some reason it got bugged in my playthrough of the game, so I never actually had to put any more tinder in there. It was infinitely warm, despite the weather blowing into it and everything else. It never went out, which is what normally happens. So it was a massive advantage from there as far as that goes. Beyond that, my upgrades are usually making the raft tougher, and then the tent to sleep in. Sometimes that's really quite tricky to do, especially when you're in the harder version of the game like here. And things like the water filter, we'll come to that later, I think, about the water. Much easier to get than you realise, clean water. And then the engine is kind of superfluous. You don't really need the engine, you can get away most of the time with careful. Yeah, at this point here I'm doing the frame upgrade. I've moved on to the frame upgrade now, skipping ahead a little bit. So the water, funny enough, I didn't realise until through luck in the game considers rainwater to be clean and potable. So every time it rains, which it does a lot, as you've seen in the game, you just lift out your empty jars that you've got, drink yourself full of water, and then just refill any jars repeatedly while it's raining. Clean water. The water filter is not quite as needed, even in the desert regions of the game as well. So, at this point here, we're starting to meet bears again, and you know how I feel about bears. This one's a tricky one. So the way to kill a bear is 4 hits, and those hits can be a combination of, there he is, they're a combination of arrow, snake, and spear. 4 of any of those. So my usual method, the snake's a bit tricky, the bear's very fast, try and get him run for the snake. My usual method is 2 spear traps and 2 shots from the bow and arrow. However, the bow and arrow is very glitchy. I had trouble the first time I tried to use it, but it's still very glitchy. What normally happens is you bring the bow, and then the 2 dotted lines come in, and when they hit together in the centre, the bow is supposed to give you fire. But you'll see me in a minute wriggling around trying to get an angle on the bear to make the bow do it. It doesn't always want to do it, and I can't work out why. There's an answer to this later, but at this point here I can't work out how to do it. So you don't want to mess this up, because the bear will kill you very fast. So how do I do this? And I think at one point I throw a gas bomb to stun the bear briefly and then try to fight it. It doesn't work. I don't know why the bow isn't always focusing. Right, there goes the gas bomb. I tried different angles and various other things. Eventually, I can't seem to be getting the targeting on the bow to work, so I run. And the problem here is that the problem is not I've survived, which is the main thing, because that bear will kill me very quickly. I've left 2 spear traps, and spear traps are expensive. Saplings are a particular, those saplings are quite easy to get hold of in the normal game. In the expert game, they're a particular limited resource. You just don't get as many out in the world. And you need 3 for every spear trap. And I've thrown away a lot of resources getting the end. I decided I'm just going to get out of it because I can't fight it. So I really want the bear fur. I think I've only got wolf trousers at the moment, everything else is like that. But I'm going to scramble. I'm not going to try and take this bear. It's not going to go back to this one. I'm leaving. Right, so just installed the raft shelter on my... And I'm now about to hit the next stage in the game. Entering the yard, region 7 and 10. This is Angel Yard. This is the next destination. And the second breakpoint in the game after the radio. You get on these nasty in a river, there's containers everywhere, and eventually you hit what appears to be some impenetrable rocks. What are these planets here? Here we are, here are the rocks. You can't get through them, and you just get smashed to pieces. And it looks like leaves. Green goes the bottom. But you're not really dead. Here you are at Angel Yard, and here you're going to talk to this fella with a great big spanner. So Quincy's basically saying this is Angel Yard, and he warns you that up ahead there are some nasty beasties to go into. At this point you can still access your raft, but you can't use anything like the stove to make anything. But you can at least get your lots of resources around you. The game is not too mean. If you've got a lot of resources to start with, there's even more here with which to build the various defences you're going to need. Now I apologise for the screen tearing, it's going to happen in a second. It's a rocket! Very Tintin to the moon rocket there. Not looking the greatest, is it really? So this area is full of different resources and places to sleep and crows. And at the end, the problem is we need to read the note that's under the rocket to progress to the next section of the game. But someone's going to stop us doing that, which is a great big bear who happens to be living underneath the rocket. So first deal with the bear. Well, we never did with the bear. We've already learnt that. 4 hits. So the answer is, as usual, 2 spear traps and the bow and arrow. So I'm starting to set up the spear traps from here. But as soon as we kill the bear, we're also going to have to deal with 3 wolves that I know are coming in as well. So preparation for that as well. However, the game has got something else to deal with first, which is its inherent, well not inherent, but its occasional glitches. So 2 spear traps are down. Get the bow and arrow ready. In fact, I make a couple more spear traps, don't I? I'll do that, then I get ready with the bow and arrow. But yet again, the bow and arrow decided to be glitchy, and are not giving me the 2 dotted line targeting. So I don't quite know what to do here. I can wriggle around to try and make it work. Ah, finally! 1 shot. 2 shots, time to run. However, at this point the game decides to glitch out, and suddenly I can't move. Now, at this point, I'm basically saying that I'm dead. I've lost the game. I've failed. With 1 more hit and I am dead. The bear would just instantly kill me. I can't take any more than I have already. Dodge the snake. Luckily the bear runs through 2 of the spear traps, which is lucky because sometimes they don't run through the spear traps. They sort of go around the edge of them and it doesn't work. But luckily it killed them. That's partly why I set the 3rd trap. That's a big problem. What was going wrong with the bow and arrow? I don't know, but it was doing it again. So I rapidly patch myself up and then prepare for the, oh, congratulations on your broken bone achievement. I'm now going to have to deal with 2 wolves. The benefit of wolves though is that you use you've got the tainted bait option on as well. You often end up with spare meat as you go through, and you combine that with the devil's whatever it is to make poison meat, and that's one of the best ways to kill wolves. Let the stuff from the bear first though. Raw meat and bear hide. We need to make some bear clothing. And bear caves always contain useful bits and pieces. Well, mostly useful bits and pieces. At this point here, I'm avoiding, well, I can eat those grubs, that's also an achievement, for the grub snacker there. I'm avoiding reading the the notice on the rocket base, because that will trip the next part of the quest. I want to deal with... No, don't read it, me. There you go, I counted over. I need to deal with the wolves first, and then collect as many supplies as possible before I leave. And the wolves approacheth. Now there's a chance you can make a wolf run into a snake like that, but you still need multiple hits to kill them. I've got one spear trap which will insta-kill wolves. Meanwhile I get the bait out, chuck the bait to kill one of them. By occasionally you get to keep, you can keep the bait. Normally the bait is stored. But every now and then, oh go on wolf, every now and then the bait does not get eaten. You can use it, which is ridiculous. Yet again, the game's being glitchy, and I am getting rather smashed. But we can. I've got loads of supplies. I can fix myself. Okay, so I've now collected much of the supplies that are around there. Lots of saplings and things around the edge, things like that. And I'm now eyeing up my equipment. So I am considering bear skin gear, which is the warmest in the game, for a variety of different outfits. Mostly my shoes, my hat, my gloves, and eventually my trousers. At the moment I've got wolfskin trousers, which are still pretty good. In the end, I plumped for a bearskin hat, and there's a good reason why I'm not doing the jacket, which would require 2 hides and 2 leather kits. I'll come to that later. Time to finally read that note. I bear unfortunate tidings. Rockets are dead. Ain't no way off this world no more. Unfortunately, yes. Elon and his friends have all left. They've left us behind. There's no rockets to get out of here. We're going to have to do our own thing. Let's hoping that their CO2 scrubbers fail. They're flying away. But there we go. Yes, so we're going to have to find other routes out of here. But now we've done that, we're going to be gifted an escape from this area. That's right, Quincy has rebuilt our raft for us. What a nice fellow. I think it might also patch your raft back up again. As that goes. There's note about the kingdom, which is our last destination we need to get. And off we go towards the last few zones. We're at 25 miles and a bit now, 25 and change. Day 33, and we're waiting for a Bouch, waiting down that road, the wasteland area, and 8 of 10, and we're basically heading towards about day 40. Was it mile 40? I can't remember. 40 is the key number one. So, into the desert zones, or the wasteland zones from here. All the zones are very similar around here. There's lots of wasteland, literal wasteland, and you can see they're very dry areas. There's very little in the way of clean water. There's almost no resources, a couple of saplings. There's no bunnies around here. There is, though, a plethora of bears and wolves, as far as that goes. There's a wolf over there, but it's not a bad thing, necessarily, because there's a hidden bonus to bears that you may not have realised yet, because bears don't actually care what they eat. They will happily eat us, but they will also eat other things as well, such as wolves. There's the bear. So I would really like to kill this bear, but to start off with, he can be our friend. So what I'm going to do for a change, I'm going to attract the attention of the wolf, which seems like madness. However, when I run over here, you'll see why. Bear does not like wolves. Now, wolf versus pig is an intriguing match-off, because the pig will squeak and run around and charge the wolf and there is, and the wolf will jump out of the way and circle and not do very much, often make a whole lot of racket. Bear versus wolf, though, wolf runs somewhere near bear, bear comes out and kills wolf pretty much instantly, which is what it's doing now. It's going to ace every one of those wolves. And they pretty much ignore when you're... I guess you have to scrap a snack around here. While you're around here, they ignore you. They just... The punch-up goes on, they'll deal with you later. Now, though, it is for the superior predator, that's me, to deal with Bruin, because I want his skin. I've got to demand most of the items of clothing. The boots, the hat, and the gloves will take 1 bear skin, and the trousers take 2 bear skins. So I've got a lot of bear skin to collect. It's a lot of bear. You only get 1 bear skin out of each bear. But I also want to see what's inside his cave, because sometimes they can be used for eating. So here we go again with the nonsense with the bow. So eventually I get an angle on which the bow will operate on targeting the bear. However, I'm well away from the traps, and this is quite bad. So run little me, and the bear does in fact get hit by 1 trap, and skips the next one, and then starts slapping me around. And again, I'm seriously considering I might be dead, but I'm as far from the trap as I am from the raft, so I figure, let's just try again, and the bear goes down. I get to fix more broken limbs, because that's nice. And what do we get out of it? Some bear hands, some bear hide gloves, which will certainly help a great deal with our temperature protection. Also, what might be in the bear cave? Sadly, we rolled low on this one. The spoiled fish is you can eat for an achievement to do with eating nasty things, but I wasn't particularly keen. You can sometimes find like raft patches and other useful, harder to get supplies in there, but we didn't do too well on this. Never mind. We are getting pretty close to some very, very good gear indeed. Now the other thing about the area is a couple of unique animals you can meet. Wolves. In this case, the first one is the elder wolf. Now, the elder wolf is a bit of red coloration. Essentially, he's otherwise identical to a normal wolf. However, if you try to kill him with a tainted bait, what happens is he'll eat the bait, but not die and simply leave the screen. And you might meet him again later in the same zone. So the best way to kill him is to use a spike trap. Now, why would I want to kill this venerable elder wolf? Well, because I can make some nice clothing out of him. The elder wolf's coat, you get a single hide from him, and using that you can make a coat that is as good as bearskin, but only uses 1 wolf coat rather than 2 bearskin. And it's as good as in terms of warmth, plus I think it protects you from wolf attacks. And there's also a white wolf you can meet around here as well, which is almost identical again, except that I think his coat might also protect you from all animal attacks. Because the answer to that is, don't get attacked by animals in the first place. And you might be a bit rough, but now I'm really, really warm as far as that goes. That was a lovely achievement. And in fact, I think I do meet the white wolf in a later part of the game here, but essentially I'm not too worried. I'm just trying to get to this zone as quickly as possible. Add on to the next area. For which here is region 9, nearly at the end now. This region here always seems to be about the same, and it is it's mostly shops and things you can get hardware from and items like that. So it's very good to finish off the final build of your clothing or your raft. There's lots of bears around here, but it's quite dangerous. However, at this point in the game here, I've kind of broken the back of the game. So at the moment now I've got enough gear that I don't really get cold whatsoever. And if I do get cold, I can warm up fairly easily with the stove, whether it was being glitchy or not. I don't really need any more equipment. I made one more stone knife at one point, but nothing else is really worn out yet as far as that goes. I don't need to get any more bears, but I could if I wanted to. Essentially at the point here, and I've got so much jerky and things like that, non-perishable food, and infinite, huge amounts of water. It's not necessary. So at this point here, I could just basically cruise through the game. Any dangers I encounter now are purely optional. They are of my own choosing. If I want to go and fight some more bears, great. But I don't really need to. So that's where we're at now. We're at this last part of the game where I just ignore and just try to cruise through and only stop occasionally when I need to eat or sleep or drink. Despite the statement though, I am feeling a bit funny, so I do decide to talk about the bear. You can just about see in the top left of the screen. This was good though for an important discovery I found out about bow. So yeah, one more bit of clothing would be nice. So the problem with the bow that I've been finding, that it doesn't always do that, focusing on it. However, it doesn't necessarily mean you won't be able to hit what you're aiming at with the bow and arrow. If the bow does do targeting dots coming in, you must wait for it to reach the centre before you fire. If, however, you aim at the target and you don't wait for the aim, then you can still hit the target. So there you go. So I'm not getting targeted here, but I can still shoot down. So I'm rather going around. However, there's one other fact with the bears. I'm not sure it's a bug. When I shoot the bear here, after 2 times you expect it to start running out. However, it doesn't. Occasionally bears don't play ball. You shoot them and they don't leave their little cage. I'm not surprised, but not something you can really rely on. Because it's a bear, you can't rely on it, maybe it will stay in its cage while I'm shooting at it. Shoot a couple of times and then run. Obviously spear tracks is the safe option. And in fact this area here, maybe it's because of the weather, maybe it's because of the dark, you don't really think, I mean it seems surprising that a bear would not want to leave in the dark because it's a bit rainy, but he's going to stay in his cage while I shoot him 4 times with the bow. And again, I don't actually need to do the aim, which is fine, but I think I was cautious because the first time I tried to use the bow and arrow on the bear, and therefore I was very cautious about making sure it all hit that target. Anyway, that's fine. Another bear will go down. So at this point here, I've pretty much cruised through most of Zone 10, Region 9. I didn't need to do anything there very much, just stop occasionally for food. Now we're in Region 10, and things get a bit strange. A bit in the wild blue yonder here. Well, watch out for these things. Your graphic user interface is gone. Your damage bar and everything else, but you can actually effectively hit some of these things that are sticking out of the water. So I would be cautious about being too blasé about doing this. But it appears that we've headed out into an inland sea or the actual sea itself. It's kind of scary. However, this section does go on for quite a long while. So why don't we skip ahead? And finally you start to see these red boys, and that means you are near the end of your journey. Welcome to the kingdom. Whatever horrors may await for us here. Looks rather like an amusement park, doesn't it, really? And the first horrors are puppies. Puppies dressed up the same as our dearies. And some sort of hydroponic system going on. And then a rack of bags. I had a bit of trouble activating this, but essentially you can examine that empty space on the board there. Indeed, an older hound twitching in the sunshine, and some squeaky pups. And a little note. Canine Manifest. Bosco has returned from the east, no handler. Tipper is awaiting new deployment. He's anxious. Lou is intractable, new-mannered and unsuitable for field work. Rosie's in the field in the Southlands, and Esau has not yet returned. Field lost. There you go. And here's some piggies. The little piggies suckling there, by the way, and some corn. What a beautiful piece. What a beautiful place it is. I find this odd geodesic dome at the end. Tell us, traveller, what's out there? And so the game finishes. There you go. That's the end of the game. Not bad, is it really? What am I? So, okay. First of all, so explanation. I think it's pretty clear at the end. Some band of luminaries has been sending out the dogs to try and find survivors and see what's out there, and also hopefully bring them back. Which is a nice end of the game. That's pretty good. And for all its problems, the game is enjoyable. I did enjoy the game a great deal, and I'm glad I was able to come back to it and finish it like this. I don't think I've got a lot of replay in it. I don't really want to go back and do the survival mode or anything like that, or play it on again. But still, a thoroughly enjoyable experience, and I appreciate despite the bugs and bits and pieces, I appreciate it a great deal. Very happy that I played it, and I hope you enjoyed watching it and seeing it all the way to the end. Take care of yourself, and hopefully I shall see you again next time.